Okay, I know everyone says this, but I think we found the perfect filmmaker starter kit. Great, so you're getting started in filmmaking. That's super exciting, but it's really intimidating looking at all the different kit out there. You know, there's huge production companies using massive cinema cameras, huge rigs. You're thinking, how the hell am I going to afford this? But really, it's down to the techniques you're using. Your gear is just a tool. It doesn't need to be the be-all, end-all. So we've got a budget of £1,000. That's what we're going to go with for our starter kit. So myself and head of production here at Manto, Josh, we're going to take you through everything from camera, lenses, tripod, accessories, lighting, audio, give you some recommendations, give you some tips on where you can buy them and why you need these things and what you can use them for.
So camera choice is always going to be the big question, and it's probably the piece of kit that you'll be the most excited to buy and get stuck into using. But there's so many different things you can choose from, so many different functions that each of them will offer, so which one do you go for? Here at Manto, we typically film using cinema cameras, which are super versatile, brilliant pieces of kit, but they do come with a huge price tag. So if you're just starting out with a tight budget, what other choices do you have that aren't going to break the bank? What we'd recommend is going online and looking for a used mirrorless DSLR style camera, such as this GH5, which is a Panasonic Lumix camera. So this is my camera, and it's the first one that I got when I started freelancing. At the time it cost me about £2,000 with the lens, but now if you go online and have a look for some used ones, you can get them for about £450, so they are really affordable. The camera is always going to be the biggest part of your budget when you're buying a completely new kit from scratch, but if you can get that to be around about 50% of your budget, then you've still got loads of money to play with for the rest. It might not be new, but it's still a great piece of kit. It still shoots 4K, it's got great stabilization, it's pretty lightweight, so you can use it run and gun style, you can stick it on a gimbal. It's got solid codecs, great color, and crucially it's really built for video production. I would say though, if you were to look at the GH5, have a look at the model that came after, which is the GH5S, because that comes with log built into it. I do want to stress though that we're not recommending this specific model, more that this is just a camera that sits within a kind of wider range of choices that are all at a similar kind of age and price point. So if something like low light capabilities is much more important to you than stabilization, for example, then you'd want to go for a Sony a7S from around the same year. If you do your research, you're definitely more than likely to find those choices out there. So lens-wise, this is actually the lens that came with it when I bought it as part of the pack. So it's a 12 to 60mm zoom lens, and it definitely covers so many bases. Again, if you're just starting out, you're going to be doing lots of run and gun style shoots. Maybe you're going to be doing things like events coverage, things like weddings, maybe like the odd few corporate videos here and there. This definitely does a lot of what you would need it to do. I'd say once you've got a solid zoom lens, you might want to branch out from there at a later point, looking at prime lenses, maybe longer lenses, macros, things like that. But the best place to start is something that's got a lot of versatility to it. From a little bit of research that we've done, you can generally pick up the camera body for about £450, and this lens seems to go online used for 120, 150.
So lighting's a pretty big one. That's what's going to separate you from looking slightly different from just like the user-generated stuff you see on socials. Something I heard is that you don't need loads of lights. It's more about control and how you can shape the face. Of course, having an additional light that you can bring in and out of your shots is a really great way of learning how to shape light, also helps with your composition. So pretty decent, reliable LED panel we've got is this one here. It's not massive, but it's great for interview setups. So this runs for about £100. You can also change the temperature controls, so you can make it slightly warmer or a bit cooler. The barn doors just give you extra control of the light as well. And there's also a diffusion panel in, which helps you just soften it off. Something I really like to do to add on to lights is like a bit of muslin cloth, or just sort of some shears, which you could literally just buy from a craft store or get online. It can be really DIY. Just clip them onto the top and it just stops your face being too hot as well. So we'll normally shoot with the light to one side and then sort of shoot from the shadow side. It's just the most flattering way to shoot interview style if that's something that you'll be doing. In the context that we're talking about this would be called a fill light. But if you want to expand your collection later down the line, it's definitely one that you can just keep in your kit, because it could either be just like a sidekick light or even a hair light. And as you grow your kit, you'll probably have something a little bit bigger down the line. So this is a COB light. It's just one from Small Rig. But we use sort of the larger sizes of these, like you might have heard of the Aperture 300D. They go for about £800, but this one you can grab for just under 200 quid. So this has got a Bowens mount, which means that You can just add on any other modifiers as well, which just gives you a bit more versatility when you're shooting. We've also got just this tiny little LED here, which we can show you, which, you know, just doing a close-up interview has pretty good whack. And you have pretty standard batteries in it when you can just pop it on top of a stand. Okay, we're just gonna do a quick little comparison to show you how important lighting really is, because you might have got to this point and you're thinking, oh, I could just spend that extra £100 on a camera or lens. Hello, this is Editing Laura. This is a shot with that first LED light on and a small practical light just to lift the scene, in comparison with no lights at all, just the studio house lights on. Okay, bye.
So from £1,000, we put 100 aside specifically for audio. Now you might think that that's overkill, you don't need that much, but actually this is one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're first getting into making videos. But typically, built-in microphones and cameras are really low quality and they're just not going to cut it, particularly if you actually want to get any dialogue from people. A great first choice would be something like this, which is a Rode video mic. So this is a shotgun style microphone and it comes with a little cradle so you can mount it directly on top of your camera through this shoe mount here. This is something that's great if you're going to do things like run and gun style shoots, events. It's always going to pick up a decent amount of ambient sound, but you can also take people to a side if you want to do vox pops, and because it's so directional, it should get their audio really clearly. So online, if you were to look for an older model of a Rode video mic, for example, you'd probably find these for around about £40 to £50, so you can get them really cheap. Another option instead of a shotgun mic is you could get a wireless mic, so like something like this, for example. The main benefit of these is you could be meters away from whoever you're speaking to or whatever audio you want to record. You don't have to be really close up to it with your camera as you would be with the shotgun mic. We'd also definitely recommend that if you are to go down the wireless microphone route, that it's worthwhile getting yourself a lavalier attachment, which is one of these. Basically, it just means that you can be much more discreet in the way that you mic people up, so you're not going to see where the microphone is on the camera when you're recording. Price point wise, these come in about £80 if you're looking at an older generation.
So to finish off the kit, there's a few essentials that you definitely can't skip. Maybe not sexy, maybe not as exciting, but they're definitely non-negotiables. Tripod, or sticks, is what you can also call them. So especially if you're doing a lot of interviews, this is an essential really, obviously for stabilisation as well. You can get a decent set of sticks for about 60 to 80 quid. You want one that can hold the weight of your camera as well, especially if you've got quite heavy lenses. Other essentials are some stands, like these gorgeous ones behind me. They are going to be great for holding those lights up that we were talking about, but they're also useful for many other different things, like adding, you know, rigging up diffusion or black negative fill, or using a boom further down the line. These can be got pretty cheap online for like 10 to 20 quid as well.
Sorry.
And of course, you can't forget as an essential accessory is headphones. They don't have to be the best out there, they just need to be able to monitor the audio when you're using your mics, just to make sure that everything's coming through. And when you're wearing them, you're going to look like a pretty cool director as well, so you know, definitely ups your optics. One last thing that's going to make any of this gear work is some batteries. You'll probably get one with your camera gear, but spare ones are obviously essential, especially when you're out on a shoot. You're going to be using up a lot of footage because you're going to be shooting lots of cool stuff. And of course you'll need some SD cards to record all of this as well. It's definitely good to have a weather-sealed case like this, so you can just chuck them in and they're all safe with all your data on when you come to the edit. So some final honourable mentions to bits that you could add to your collection further down the line, or if you do have a few extra pennies at this stage. A gimbal is great to add stabilisation to your videos, especially if you're doing run and gun stuff and you don't want to just be static on a tripod all the time as well. A boom pole is another great additional thing to have. Like I said, you can rig it on one of your stands, good for interviews, so you're not always relying on a lav. And finally, an ND filter is really great if you want to put that on the front of your lens. It basically means like when you're shooting outdoors and it's super bright that day, that you don't need to change your frame rate, but you can down the exposure. Hopefully that gives you an overall view of some of the kit that will be useful as you start your filmmaking journey. If you enjoyed this video, please drop us a like, it really helps us out, and let us know if we missed anything from the starter kit. Subscribe if you've enjoyed, and hopefully see you in the next one.